Welcome to the Style and Vibes podcast with me, Mikelah. I'll be giving you the inside scoop on music, fashion, culture, and more from Caribbean celebrities and tastemakers across the globe, pushing our culture with authenticity and, of course, style and vibes. Hello, welcome back to the Style and Vibes podcast. We are joined by a special guest. So in the first episode, kind of relaunching the podcast, Chris and I really talked about or kind of touched on some of the episodes. And he really had me reflecting on a lot of the episodes that I didn't even really talk about because there was just so many. And I think it's really important to kind of pull in the producer because she actually she did not go drip me up if I'm in the top about it a little bit more. But not in a bad way. Kerry kind of, me didn't need the drippings. So this is really just a fun conversation. So we're just going to be talking about highlights from some of the past episodes that you really should go back and listen to. If you haven't, if you're new to the Style and Vibes family, or if you want to share it with someone or revisit it yourself because it was really just that good. Sometimes you kind of like go through your catalog and I forget. Like Chris, honestly, if we hadn't done that conversation, I don't even think I would have realized.
Listen. I'm getting ready. I'm like, yo, you want to beaten because when I see the amount of name,
so Kerry-Ann drip me up and Chris had beaten for the other side.
So hold on. Because I love you, I'm not gonna put you on a timeout. I'm gonna give you a chance to redeem yourself, right? So here we are. And I want to make sure that people understand. So I'm sitting with Mikelah, the host of Style and Vibes, the creator of Style and Vibes, and the producer. Now I want to spell it for you. For those who are not Jamaican, it's spelled like this. The D-I producer. Produca. Come on, you got to get with the program. Kerry-Ann, the producer. All right. So we're going to talk about this because people want to know. I mean, you got Style and Vibes has been around. Obviously, we talked about it 15 years. I mean, wow, that's mind blowing. And you're talking about starting out as a magazine, an online magazine, digital magazine. People say blog, but I like to say what it really is. You were a digital magazine, and talking about going from that to a podcast. And now, for people who are just joining, who are not familiar, like I'm sure you have some episodes that were just mind-blowingly memorable that people will just want to know. So I want to hear from you, Mikelah, and you, the producer, Kerry-Ann.
No, I forgot Kerry because Kerry a bust out tie seams.
Yeah.
Like I think that there was just so many really great conversations and things that
you didn't tell me about.
I didn't know
about. She missed the opportunity. So she said the hardest conversation was with Edley Shine. And I love that conversation, by the way, for a couple things because him give respect due. And well, it shouldn't say respect due, but he was one of the few artists that kind of really talked about the Mobe sound and how that had an impact on dancehall. But we'll get to that because Edley's episode need a good thing. But I want to
Your bias, true, you come from Mobe. Go ahead.
Hey, I mean, it is what it is, right? But I'm biased. I think the hardest episode to record, if I remember, was Pressure, because Pressure, his audio, his internet was cutting out. So a lot of times
he was in.
So it was like
literally drop the call, join back the call, drop the call, join back the call, and the publicist or whoever was on the other line holding it. So it was Mikelah, I don't remember. I
remember it now. I was just like, that was, but I maybe because I felt so bad that I didn't really like,
Mikelah, no, when it's editing time, I'm like, this is rough, but it turned out to be a pretty decent conversation, but that one was rough because as an editor, Mikelah knows, like when the quality is crazy, when Zoom making you sound like Megatron and all of these things, it stressed me out.
Megatron.
Not only there was two in Jamaica that really stood out. So when I did Kabaka, that was during COVID. So there was lockdown in
He
Jamaica.
had to
He
hurry
had
up
to
and
leave the
leave because he
studio
had
by certain
curfew.
time to reach up the hills.
Wow.
He had to leave to
He
make
had
it
to
to leave
leave.
so he could go
Yes.
back before curfew.
Wow.
And then Tarrus was driving. So
Driving.
he was doing the whole. If you look at the YouTube video, you can see him in the car with his phone just hanging like this. And I was so worried that it was going to chip out because.
So he was actually driving, or somebody else was driving?
Yes.
So he might drive on a phone and up on.
By the time we finished the conversation, he had reached his destination.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot about all that craziness.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite interviews, actually, it was early in the podcast, so the audio quality may not have been the best based on where we were because of the acoustics, but this was ahead before everybody. So we did a double recording with Manny on Afrobeats, the Afrobeats Connection. That was a vibe of an episode because Manny is a guy full of vibes anyway. And I really enjoyed that conversation because he really was talking about, Lagos high life, and because he's Ghanaian, they're kind of talking about how the Afrobeat. So I thought that was a really good episode. And to the point that you were making style and vibes while it was created and centered around the Caribbean culture, that episode is a good episode of why it transcends Caribbean music. It could be applicable to any kind because Mikelah and I are music lovers, period, regardless of genre.
And me.
That was, yes, you too,
Yes,
Chris.
Chris.
I don't know. Yes. Yeah, so that was one of my favorite episodes because it was one of the first episodes that I had a whole podcast set. I had a mixer and but the room we were in, the echo was crazy, so it was crazy. And then we did that with Shari with a sugar and spice. So we were all in that room. Mikelah looked like she didn't remember at all.
No, I remember.
And then we also did the Rihanna Impact immediately after that one. So I liked those two episodes.
Yeah, the Rihanna Impact was fun because we still waiting on that album from Riri.
Yeah.
So what was that about, the Rihanna Impact?
So it was really talking about how much she's had an impact and how, because at the time there were a lot of real rumblings around her doing a reggae inspired album and nobody knew what that was. But I think for a lot of people it felt a little off, and we were kind of like, nah, it's spot on because of the way that she came into the industry with Panda Replay and how she's always kind of talked not just about being from Barbados and really having a foot in both the Caribbean and she's this global pop star. Like she really just is at the pulse of a lot of trends. And we saw that very early. So just really understanding, like taking some time to reflect on the impact that she's made. I think not only I think as Caribbean people, we haven't done that. And then globally, I think she's much more heralded for her iconic fashion sense and now she's in the beauty realm and she's making all of this money and it has nothing to do with music, and she's just a true mogul. Now she's a Barbados hero, like just to like, and she's still has so much more to be to
absolutely
do.
And she's also an actress, I mean, so I mean she's just I mean, listen, the woman is, oh my God, forget about it. Don't let me meet her.
The other thing we talked about in that episode, we were kind of thinking who she should collaborate with on this album, but we walked it back and said, well, on every album there was a dancehall reggae themed song that she had. You had, every song, Rude Boy, Work, whatever. She's always had a song that was in dancehall culture. So where everyone was kind of scratching their heads, you were like, y'all clearly have not been listening to Rihanna.
Exactly.
Because
it's spot on. She's gotten to a place where she can do whatever the hell she wants to do.
Exactly. And we were talking about who we think she should have and do a collaboration with on the album. So that was kind of what that episode
is so about. Funny. So now that she has this whole NFL performance coming up and this podcast will release before this happens.
We should speculate who's going to have perform with
us.
us.
But the funny thing is, I asked Sanai, who's my daughter, my older daughter. I said, "Who do you think she should She should bring out?" And she said, "Of course, ASAP." And then she said, "Coffee." And I said,
"Yeah, absolutely, absolutely."
Bring out Miguel.
Yeah. Coffee would be good. Yeah, that would be
but
good.
Also, she was at the time rumored to have been working with Rihanna.
Yeah.
Before all of this. So, and we never saw the fruits of that labor. So there could be something sitting in the vault that we don't know.
That we don't know about. Yeah. So now I'm listening to Style and Vibes for the first time. Give me some things that you think I should go back and check out to get sort of the pulse of Style and Vibes.
I don't think you could get Style and Vibes really covers the gamut, not of just music and style, but culture. So like, for instance, we had a whole episode about Gyallis Culture. That was such a fun episode.
Oh, I got to go back and check that out.
That was and
that was fun.
Gyallis Culture is over because I remember at that time
all the artists were getting married.
Ding Dong was getting married. Like a lot of the bachelors of dancehall, even Conscience had gotten married.
Yeah. And wait, Conscience still married?
Yeah.
Oh, he's still married?
I think so. Yeah.
I thought there was a rumor of some.
She had a baby, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
So at the time we were like, is that idea shifting? Like we're going from now, mana Gyallis and them something to now I'm my wife, but oh no, that's all right. So we were kind of talking about like, has the culture kind of shifted away from that mindset? I mean, at the end of we said no.
Yeah, at the end of that episode, but it was a good debate because we said once there's a wifey culture, there's a matey culture, so there will always be a Gyallis culture.
Yes. That's
unfortunately that's just what it is.
We did a good breakdown. I mean, we didn't give away the episode. It was a really spirited debate. We had Sean from Reggae Music Forever on that episode, and we just had a good time just debating Gyallis wifey culture.
I think we need a part 2 of that.
and I mean, we didn't just base it in dancehall. We really looked at reggae as a whole.
Right.
Some really good artists, what people love, and reggae artists people love. We are like, well, this song is really about matey and wifey, but it wasn't a dancehall song. It was a lovers rock song. So, I love that episode. I love the episodes where we all get to chat. So like when Mikelah and I bleached the whole night at Reggae Sumfest 2019, we watched it on YouTube. That whole episode.
So we're gonna pause on the bleach. So for the non-Jamaicans, if you don't know, when we say bleach, we're not talking about bleaching your skin. We're talking about staying up all night. All right. Yes, translation: you bleach, you stay up all night. You're not bleaching the skin. You stay up whole night. You burn the midnight oil, whatever you want to say, because you're hanging out and you don't want to sleep. You don't want to miss nothing. So we bleach. I'll be a bleach and I go on.
Yes. So that was a fun episode, and I think from that episode, people were like, yeah, this is kind of fun because it wasn't just like Mikelah said, the typical celebrity interviews. You were really commenting and going deep into the music and the performances. So I like that one.
And me and Kerry can't chat enough about
really. You don't say.
And even Chris, like we have so many. I mean, Chris, you can attest to this. We have so many conversations off camera, offline about just culture in general. Like we love this. We do this. We live and we breathe. The essence of the culture and really bringing that dual approach, because we live in the States, but we really have a sense of what is going on a macro and a micro perspective. Just being able to kind of go back and forth and understand what is happening now versus what was then, because we kind of came up through the era what is known now as the golden era, I guess you would
Mm-hmm.
say, from a music standpoint. But a lot of the elements from that era have really transcended, like, the idea of Cardi B doing a dancehall inspired party. Like, Cardi B she's in her 20s. So
Mm-hmm.
she didn't come up in that same era, but the idea of she wanted to do a pasa pasa, so she never got to go to a pasa pasa party or even
Mm-hmm.
a replica of that type of party, but she had the understanding. She loves spice. She loves, the
Mm-hmm.
dancehall culture in general because she grew up in the Bronx. So I think that really just comes full circle, and we kind of are the cultural historians that got kind of take that perspective and kind of bring a little flavor to it, Yeah, we just season the things.
What's that? That's salt, whatever.
Yeah, salt bay,
Yeah.
but I sprinkle like a jerk seasonings on it, a little drop a scotch bonnet on it.
Oh my God.
I
Carry
think,
on,
like,
the producer.
I think one I didn't really get to talk about, but I really really enjoyed was Miss Pat of the
I was
Beat.
about to say that. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
if she not
Okay.
say it,
Okay.
we go jumpy, like double
Yeah,
jump.
Okay.
yeah. Miss Pat is a gem
Mm.
to talk to. It feels like you're talking to
A
top
historian.
old historian. Like, it was when her book came out, and I have the book. It's right over there.
Right.
It's just it's a picture book, like it's a table book. Um, and she just really, I wish I could have speak to her even longer, because she's one of those voices. And she really, her story was just it went along with reggae music, like
Right.
how she grew up, how she transitioned, how she moved from being Chinese descent in Jamaica, moving to Queens to start this record label. She just has such a wealth of experience in the industry that I think, and she's still going. Like, she is not stopping
She ain't
anytime
slowing down.
soon.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah. So she just really dropped,
She
and the
she
way
she
that
gonna
she
she gonna be
talked.
like the Queen of England, like 99 or
Yes,
something like that.
yes,
100,
yes,
105, and she's still going.
yes,
Like
yes.
110. Wait, Miss Patty.
And the
Non-stop.
way that she talked about music and the analogy that she gave around dance hall and interest in dance hall and how you transition as a person. So, like, you love the rebelliousness of dance hall, but then you find love, and then you get into lovers rock, and then you want to vibrate higher, so you start listening to roots and reggae, and how they're all intertwined, but you never forget the nostalgia of what you loved.
Mm-hmm.
And it has allowed her to kind of stand the test of time. For a lot of people who don't know, she's the one who kind of came up with the idea of a compilation CD for reggae music. And that was even new. This is like before, I mean, I'm sure knew of a mixtape, but this was really branding, Reggae Gold and Strictly the Best in a way that today still charts in
Mm-hmm.
with streaming. And she kind of had that foresight back then, and I think that's just really intriguing.
I
This
think,
is all amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think and Michaela, you mentioned it in a previous episode, but I think one of the episodes where it was a long episode, it was a informative episode, but it's one that I think it's good, and it's like it's kind of hard to say this in this episode, but I almost can't listen to it because she passed away. And that was the one with Kreyolicious, right?
Hmm.
It's a really good episode because Kreyolicious was this blogger who blogged all things Haiti's history. Everything, that entire episode, she was breaking down Haiti's history. But almost a month after she recorded that episode, she died. And it was just like, it
Wow.
was, Michaela called me and she's like, "Where are you? Are you ready for this?" I'm like, "What?" and she told me, I was like, oh God. it was
It was hard. It was heart-wrenching because
Was she
Wanda,
sick or was it?
we do not know.
yeah,
To this day,
we
no.
really don't
We
know.
do not
Yeah.
know. And I
She was
think that's what
very,
made it
because
hard.
she was just coming out of her shell, um in terms of she had a moniker for the brand. She said it kind of looked like her, but nobody knew what she looked like.
Yeah.
And that was
Right.
on purpose. She wanted the content to really stand for itself, and she really wanted to give a really great perspective. And it was Wanda of Leonie Sweet. She's the one who reached out to me and she said, "Have you heard from her?" And I said, "No."
I
I
know
said,
Wanda. Yeah.
yeah, I said we did the recording of the interview. She's like, "I think your interview is the last one that she did before she passed." And I said, "Well, that's it was just uh
Man.
and we did it at the beginning of the year to kind of commemorate Haiti's independence.
Independence.
So we released it right at the beginning of the year. So it was just a really eerie
We're talking what
coincidence.
year? We're talking what
This is what,
2019.
2019?
2019.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the episode, like, she just drops like all the historical gems
Oh,
in there, and I
I'm
think
gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to
her
listen to that.
platform is still up and running, I
Yeah.
believe, because her
Yeah.
family kind of took it over, but she was based in Florida. So yeah, rest in peace to Kreyolicious.
Kreyolicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Man,
that
that's
was
yeah.
that was a tough one to, and I mean, it's a good thing I had already released it, because
Yeah.
it would have
Yeah.
been challenging to release after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna put all of this in the show notes. As the producer, I'm gonna tell him because I
Well,
don't.
Afrobeats,
We
yes.
listed so many episodes. There's just a lot. I think you mentioned the one with Chelsea, which was great because it talked about marketing of the music in the previous episode you did with Chris. But there was one that I really liked because it was interesting. It was not the traditional dancehall story, and that's the one with Noah Powa. And at the end, he did the Bounty impersonation. At the end, I did not expect it. I was editing, and he was like cross, angry.
Angry, miserable, cross,
No,
angry.
that was
Yeah.
crazy. And the funniest thing is we did that on video. Like, I could see him, but he couldn't see. Like, you could not see my camera on video for whatever reason. Because that interview was so funny. He was so animated, but he could not see me. So he was like joking about it the whole time. And so, like, he was just a riot. Like, it was so much fun to and those, again, the technical issues, because it's just like that was one of the first times where I was like, no, I want to start doing video, and we couldn't get the video.
Man.
So it was like,
There's a
that's
lot
crazy.
that happens in podcast production. Whatever you think could go wrong will
Can go
almost
wrong. Will
always
go
go
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
But
like you've got to plan for
you,
that.
you got to
Yeah.
plan for it or you roll with it,
Yeah.
So Zoom is my backup. Or we just have to do other things. So like Mikelah said, I was home and she's like, I can't hear Edley. And I was like, okay, running on the Zoom and said, okay, but me to hear him. How you can't hear him? She said, what?
I don't know. Meanwhile,
Listen,
this is not like my first interview. Like, this
imagine
is
this happening. Imagine all this happening on live radio. Okay, like, yeah,
You cut to
yeah, live
commercials. That's
radio is
all.
even more nerve-wracking, because if the sound doesn't come out, it doesn't come out for everyone.
Everybody.
Yes. But I think the joy of listening to the episodes or just kind of hearing the different conversations. Mikelah and I do a debrief. So this is a snippet of what our normal conversations are. We almost have a podcast after the podcast of the conversations we're having. And it's really an analysis. So like the one with Edley Shine, I thought it was just phenomenal storytelling. When you think of an artist that came there to tell the story, like, yeah, man, this is how the story.
And him know what back neither, you know.
Nope,
Him
he went right in.
talking things.
He told when I said legit, he was telling us, he's like, story time. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, in my father basement, and my father way in a things. And so just like what? Like he told the story of how they got together, how them boss, and then he took it to the point where, you know, the full voice versus the high pitched voice. And when he, Mikelah know Moby is my heart. So when he was like, yeah, that's a whole, everybody was kind of doing that style because Cartel kind of got it from Moby, and the Moby artists, them, you know, all of them. And then that's how that kind of sound became almost dominant in dancehall. And I was like, Mikelah, he said it right. Because I keep
I've been saying
forgetting
this
his
all
name.
along.
Yeah, basically, you know.
You keep forgetting.
I can't remember his name. Darn it. He was arrested. My name again?
Tommy Lee? No.
Who?
Not Tommy.
She said Tommy Lee. No.
Tommy Lee. Yes, it was Tommy Lee.
It was Tommy Lee.
And then Tommy Lee, Merital, all of them flanker people. Big up.
Flanker.
Big up.
Big up, flanker. Big up. Big up.
Big up, flankers.
Large up yourself, flanker.
So basically, you know, just the sound that came from out there, and Edley kind of broke it down. So I love that conversation because he wasn't there from he was talking about his project, but you could really tell, particularly from that Caribbean American, like the Jamaican American experience, and how it was hard because they were born up here, and how they had to go back to Jamaica to kind of be validated in a way, in creating music. So that was one of my favorite episodes for sure.
Wow,
we had a lot of fun with the verses one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, so that versus episode was at the flashback from the Beanie Bounty.
It was, but we had Kurt Riley, who
Kurt Riley,
who was one
who
of
was
the
Beanie Man's DJ
in
in the verses.
Yeah. So that was a lot of. So we got to reflect.
Catalog, Chris. Let's go back. Catalog deep with the hit.
Yo, this is what I'm talking about. So, folks, just listen. I don't think you. I'm gonna reiterate. I'm gonna say this again. Style and vibes, full of style and vibes, and the style and the vibes can't done. So, if you want to know what style and vibes is, you need to go back into the thing, tune in, listen, download, because a beer style and a beer vibes, and it can't done. May I tell you?
Can't
me
done
repeat.
Like
Yeah, repeat and report. May I tell you? Me repeat it and me I report it. Yeah.
Clearly, you knew I was singing that song.
Yes, I saw.
We're always singing some kind of song.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, we'll include the episodes in the show notes, but I think you have time, just check them out. But you know, there was a lot of stuff, and I think credits to Mikelah is there's some stuff that Mikelah talked about on this episode that if you listen to nothing else, you have to listen to the episode Cultural Currency, because what we do, and I can't speak about myself, but what Mikelah does, we have an ability to see the vision, the trends, and we're able to speak on that. And that episode Cultural Currency, Mikelah talked about what now people are saying, and she recorded it 2018, 2019, but Mikelah and I have been talking about it from even before that. So if you are a geek in terms of Caribbean culture, understanding its influence and the currency and the equity that Caribbean culture has, I think that's an episode that really showcases her thought leadership and her ability to be able to assess and analyze what's going on in the landscape, not just from music, but from style, clothing. You know, everybody, you know, Mikelah and I were past going on Twitter complaining about which designer is having reggae themed clothing on the runway. We know this is going to be a thing. So we've moved past that, and it's like, okay, so what? What next? What are we going to do about it? Or what are we not going to do? So that was like an episode that I feel like people should listen to, and more thought leadership stuff like that from Mikelah, please.
I
But
think,
yeah.
I think it's good to highlight. We talk a lot about, we balance the good with the bad, because there's a lot of good things really happening in the from a creative standpoint, from a business standpoint, and people are really seeing some of that. And I think sometimes we double down on what's not happening and what people aren't doing, but really being in a space where we can show that, be examples of what is being done right as well. And I pride myself in being able to state that, because I get it. Entertainment is, drama, trauma, and all them something that drive entertainment and engagement, but that's not really what I want to focus on. There are so many other platforms that really focus on that. And if we do talk about it, it's in a perspective that really kind of doubles down. The one thing I like about documentaries, and I kind of look at each episode as its own mini documentary, is it really gives you the opportunity to take apart something that happened and really dissect it from a bird's eye view. So even like one of the episodes kind of inspired by the trauma around the events of Major Hype, and really talking, like, we didn't really expect to even have the conversation that we had, but I had someone in my Rolodex, one of my best friends, who worked in social work, and she really talked about domestic violence in a way that we tied it back to how it relates to our culture and how we don't talk about it enough, in a way that, not villainizing one party or the other, but really identifying, identifying how we kind of approach it in that manner, and kind of what happened from that high level, but also on the back end, how people can be rehabilitated, and how that, like, that opportunity really doesn't get to be showcased enough, because we only talk about, the history of what has happened. We don't necessarily talk about the redemption enough.
I think that episode, when I tell you, it was, I mean, we consider ourselves learned people and aware, but when she said that, yes, domestic violence should focus on the woman, but without proper rehabilitation plans and programs for the guy, you're really setting up this guy to go back out and repeat the same cycle if there's not.
Well, man or woman, because now
man or woman,
there are more cases of domestic
women,
violence. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But in this particular instance, we were talking about the situation.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And so that struck me, because I was like, she's right. Like, if we're saying an abuser needs help, but they're not getting the help, then there's no way we can break the cycle.
Right.
And how we do that. So I thought that episode really was like, oh wow, I never really thought about it. I really didn't think about it. It was just like, okay, you put your hands upon somebody, all right, fine, but we've never really given that person a way to be rehabilitated, and eventually, perhaps somewhere down the road, get some redemption where they can re-enter life,
right.
The same way that a prisoner goes to jail and they're supposed to come back out rehabilitated. They may not get that opportunity if they don't get proper treatment and support.
I'm ready for Style and Vibes on Netflix.
From your lips to God's ears.
I'm ready. Netflix executives, I know you're listening. Style and Vibes needs to be on Netflix, and if not Netflix, HBO. Act like you know. The thing turn up. It level up. It's on our next level. So we need you to pay attention.
I'm excited about the new season as well. So we're ready for it.
Ready for it. Like I said, Style and Vibes are carry the swing. Style and Vibes are the big thing. Make sure you tune in. Don't turn off, cause that thing you sell off. Style and Vibes.
All right, guys. This was fun. So thanks for having me on to talk about the episode.
Absolutely. My producer.
Yeah, Kerry-Ann, the producer.
Chris, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Style and Vibes podcast. If you like what you hear, and I know you do, share it with your friends and family. If you want more, make sure you visit styleandvibes.com and follow us on our social channels, Twitter and Instagram @Style and Vibes. Until next time, Leah Tommy Peeps.